Welcome back to Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm Jaime Agostino, your host. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, we are discussing NSF and overdraft fees with Joel Schwartz, founder and co-CEO of DoubleCheck Solutions. Joel, welcome, and thanks for joining me.
Oh, Jaime, thank you for having me. I'm very excited about today's podcast.
Wonderful.
I appreciate this.
Oh, absolutely. So, Joel, would you mind telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hi. I'm a seasoned banker. I was in the banking industry for almost 20 years. I used to oversee all of Southern California for one of the largest privately held financial institutions in the country. And I've had this. I love being in banking. I love that you get to help people with one of their things that are going to carry them through their whole lives, and that's their financial health, their financial well-being. And then some years ago, I had this idea for a company, which I think we'll get into in a little bit, and came up with DoubleCheck. And here I am now as the co-CEO and founder of this company.
All right. Well, as you said, you are founder of DoubleCheck. So tell me about the creation of DoubleCheck and why the technology and the company were created.
As I said, I was a banker. I would spend the majority of my mornings, even as a senior executive, I would spend my mornings from almost 8:30 in the morning until around 1 o'clock dealing with overdraft and NSF events. It was aggravating. And not just because it absorbed my mornings, but here I was, I had these customers, consumers, small businesses alike, screaming, dealing with problems. And then I had staff-wise saying, this is absorbing our days. And then I had a CEO saying, we need the revenue. What are you going to do? And regulators saying, this is completely out of control. I just knew there had to be a better way to solve it. And I dove in and I started listening. And that's a key part. I started listening to what the consumers and the small businesses were actually saying. And that's how DoubleCheck was born. That's the whole thing. I can't wait to discuss more about it, but that's how the creation came and that's how it was born.
All right. Well, then tell me, what are the benefits for credit unions that would utilize the DoubleCheck program?
Well, the benefits are we put the members in control of what their overdraft, NSF, their negative balance situation. So the benefits are massive. The first one is instead of being yelled at and screamed at, why didn't you help me? What happened? Look what happened to me. The credit union gets to take a step and say, hey, we texted you, we emailed you, we told you everything. And we're going to give you a platform that you can actually solve it, which I know we'll talk a little bit about what we do. So that's the first thing. The second, another aspect is right now, and you and I have talked about this before, overdraft fees have never been more scrutinized. We see some of the largest FIs in the country waiving them all together. A lot of FIs have become dependent upon that revenue as a matter of a service. With our technology, you get to offer a new member-centric service charge that could technically replace that revenue source and put your members in control. So they're going to be able to take that overdraft fees and actually reduce it, but almost stay income neutral. There's also a fraud tool in this thing that never existed before. Members can actually report fraud within a 24-hour window and actually help the credit union mitigate losses. And you're also, and there's many more benefits. But one of the things that is most important to me is the credit unions are there for their members first. Every time we talk to a credit union, how does this service my members? This is going to elevate, take it to a whole new experience. You're taking the most precarious, unfortunate situation, and you get to be, and I say this word lovingly, a hero to the member, a hero. So we can go into more benefits, but I mean, those are probably the top four.
Okay. All right. Well, I have the opportunity to talk to credit unions. I was recently at a trade show. One of the conversations that has been coming up is, what are we going to do? We rely a lot on our NSF fees. So what would a credit union that wants to keep their current overdraft and NSF process the same, how can they still utilize the DoubleCheck program?
They get to keep whatever overdraft NSF process they have today, they can keep. We're not changing anything that they do today. If they want, we have one of our credit unions actually cut their fees in half. If they wanted to do that, no matter whatever they choose to do, they get to keep in place. So we're not asking them to change it. What we are saying is put that member in control of what's actually happening in their situation. So if you've set your overdraft policy or your NSF policy at $100, just to use even numbers, you can keep that $100, and now that member can actually see it. One thing that's not talked a lot about in the overdraft world is that if the member doesn't pay back the overdraft fee within 30 or 45 days, they're closed out, reported to check systems, and they're made unbankable. We've talked with the CFPB, the OCC, NCUA. We talked to them. Our technology is in the forefront of what credit unions need to do today to stay ahead of the game. So they can keep everything they have in place. They don't have to change anything and implement our technology and put the member in control of it. So they don't have to change anything. So that person that was talking to you says, you can keep it, and you can keep that essential revenue, but what you're doing is that you're turning it into you're taking it from a problem that they've been penalized to a solution with rewards. That's key.
Yeah. So then tell me a little bit, how does DoubleCheck work?
All right, we get down to it, it's funny because I love your style here, Jaime. We get into those benefits. So when when the member has an overdraft, whether it be a check, an ACH, we have a debit card extension feature, which we can talk to you a little bit more later. When they have this negative situation, that member is going to receive a text, an email from their credit union. So it looks and feels just like their credit union. One of our clients, which is Los Angeles Federal Credit Union, it would as if it came from them. The member then gets authenticated via their existing online banking. If it's Digital Insight, Q2, Alchemy, whatever, same credentials. They don't have to download anything. After that member's been authenticated, that member is presented with their entire day scenario. Which items are being paid, which ones are being covered to their overdraft, which ones are being returned. Member gets to see everything. Now that member from the DoubleCheck platform can actually alter a pay return decision. So if the mother-in-law and the gardener are being paid, but the credit card and the mortgage are being returned, they could actually swap them, because I know the repercussions. My mother-in-law never liked me, and my gardener does a lousy job on the hedges, and I can deal with them. But my mortgage and my credit card have huge consequences, so I can swap them. Or that member can actually make up the deficit, and they can use a credit card. They could use Zelle, Venmo. Some of our credit unions, they can even offer a microloan on the platform in real time. Or the member can do nothing, but they get to see everything that's actually happening in their account. If the member takes an action, alters, does anything out of the ordinary, the credit union, at their own discretion, can charge a small service charge. And we use the word service charge. And that's because the member is choosing to take an action. Credit union is not saying, hey, we're going to charge you no matter what, like an overdraft fee. We're saying we are going to let you choose. So here's a highlight of the technology. You don't have to sell it. So that member gets that. Because we are event-driven, not marketing-driven, everybody has it the day it's launched. And everybody is also treated equally. We are the most compliant technology you're going to see out there. Everyone gets the same notifications, everyone gets the same control, and everyone gets to be on the same page as it relates to what the members' needs are. That's it in a. There's also the fraud tool where the members can report it, all on a platform, fully mobile responsive. And if the member doesn't have online banking, I'm going on and on about the technology, they can still call their credit union, and a teller can actually help them solve the problem. No more yelling and screaming no more hour and a half of dealing with the problem.
Okay. Well, I mean, you've kind of talked a little bit about, fraud risk and things like that. Can you tell me a little bit about how DoubleCheck protects credit unions from the liabilities like impending legislation, fraud risk, and other things?
So the legislation part is, it's a massive home run as well. It's a massive home run. Why? Is because what the legislation on litigation is they've been saying you're making all this revenue, you're doing all these things, and you're being penalized. But what they're actually saying is, we want you to give the members control over what's going on their account. We have two words that if you called any team member at DoubleCheck, we are about control and transparency. Once you've handed that over to the member, you get to take a step back and say, you're good. You're good to go. So when the CFPB said the same thing, so we're actually okay with overdraft fees. We're actually okay with some of these aspects of it. Make them reasonable if you so choose, but we want them to have control and transparency over their account. So that's the legislation side of it. And if they were to eliminate or mitigate the overdraft fees, you can actually flip your business model. And if you wanted to help force payments to be paid, you can still do it. The platform works in any environment. One thing about DoubleCheck is we are not an overdraft program. I want to emphasize that to all of these listeners. If you wanted to get rid of overdraft, you can get rid of it. We are about putting the member in control and transparency. One of the key things that I forgot, I know we haven't gotten to the member benefit yet, but I'm still probably going to jump ahead because you're probably going to ask me that soon enough. But think about what happens to a member. I mean, Jaime, have you ever had a payment that if it didn't go through, like your mortgage check, if it didn't go through, what would be the repercussions of that mortgage check?
Yeah, huge, huge. I mean, not only am I going to get dinged from the company that I owe the money for, either a late fee or NSF fee, like they're going to charge me a fee. And then I've got the fee here at the credit union. Then, potentially my mortgage. I mean, they could be sending me notice. Who knows what? I mean, there's so many things that could happen.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, so many people, and sometimes it's an accident, like they were expecting something to
Yep.
come into their account and it didn't hit when they were anticipating it. And I mean,
Yep.
we've had those. I mean, now I'm going to date myself here a little bit, Joel. So I apologize. But back in my 20s, back when we still all wrote checks more than use our debit card, there was the whole float game. And sometimes you won at the game and sometimes you didn't. And I may have lost a few times in those early 20s. And I mean, I remember college rent payments, and getting the notice from,
Yep.
and then having to explain that to my parents, though that's always fun. So I mean, people unfortunately find themselves in these circumstances, and being able to get an alert. I mean, that's the thing. We're all living with our phones. So getting alerts is part of our day-to-day occurrences. So I mean,
I love the example. And just imagine, Jaime, because we're all so young, if we are living, if what happens if you had gotten a 30-point, like what happens if now that payment made it a late payment and now you got that 30-day late, now you got a 50, 60-point hit on your credit report. You're talking about pulling your hair out. I mean, it just puts you in a scenario and you're looking at your credit union saying, and you'd be looking, and your 20s, like, you knew I had a problem and you didn't reach out to me. And I'm blaming you, even though I wish it's my, like you said, the check register. I was on another podcast with a person that said, check registers are dead. People don't do balancing of their accounts anymore. So just giving them that control. And as you said, sometimes it's just an accident. And if you ask someone a story, I talk to so many people, everybody has a story. And and they don't remember all the great stories sometimes. They remember the one time that emotional repercussions they had. Yeah.
Well, you kind of hit some of the points, but let's talk about the benefits to the actual credit union member. What are their benefits with the DoubleCheck program?
The name of the company, the benefits are massive. It's the control. So it could be a reactive tool. I didn't know my account was overdrawn. I happened to be in a situation and I want to be able to come up with alternative funding sources. I want to be able to select who's being paid and who's not going to get paid. I don't want to owe you the overdraft. I want to put it on a form payment. So with that overdraft that we had mentioned earlier, we're talking 30 or 45 days I have to pay them back. I need more time. I want to put it on my credit card. Or you're offering me a microloan. We will be partnering with QCash that will be available on the platform as well. I want to be able to put on a QCash loan or one of the other many options they're going to have. So the benefit is I get that level of control over the account. I get to mitigate the ripple effect. So in California, we have traffic school. People don't realize that one, I'm sure, was a lovely person that came and talked to you about what are we going to do about our overdraft? What if I told you you could keep that? But now the member gets to stop what's happening afterwards. So think about the ticket being the overdraft or the NSF. Now at traffic school, I stopped my insurance company from finding out that I got a speeding ticket. because sometimes we drive a little bit faster than we should, and we got a ticket for doing something, and well, I got to pay that ticket, but my insurance company will never find out. So there's all of those things that get to stop. And then of course, builds rapport to the relationship. Now that's the reactive. The proactive side is, you know what, I don't have enough money, but I want to use my credit card. Let's say I'm a small business owner and I want to be able to intentionally double check. So you're going to attract a whole new set of customers. Now, one of the things that we found out is a lot of people, millennials, want access to their account as well. So the other thing is you're going to attract a whole new set of members, that are going to be able to come to my financial institution because I'm giving them the same control. 63 million Americans are underbanked or unbankable in the US. They're using payday loans and check cashers. Why? Because they give them a window and control over the account. Let's bring them back to the mothership. Let's bring them back to credit unions where they belong.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits. And of course, real-time control, they can do it on their iPhone. They get the platform. It's all at their fingertips. They don't have to be stressed about it. And it's their account, transparency and control.
One of the things, and we've talked about this before, I'm a big proponent of education and financial literacy education. And one of the things that you had shared with me before is based on some of the reporting, credit unions might be able to add this as a way to continue to educate their members so that they can, not maybe potentially have as many NSFs or overdrafts. Could you kind of tell us about how that would work or how credit unions would be able to access that kind of information to have that kind of training?
Yeah, we provide a very in-depth training platform. So one of the things, me being a former banker, I've seen so many technologies badly implemented. So we do training at multiple levels. We don't just train back office and show you how to implement it. We work with the frontline staff and say, here's how to talk to members about the experience. Here to talk to members about the alternatives. If they want it, we're going to help them with it. And it makes it a much more pleasant conversation when they say, well, if you do want help, we can help you with it. We could even cross-sell new services that credit union happens to offer. We can even talk about their situation and manage them through the situation. And we tell them, did you know that you could do X, Y, and Z? That conversation by itself makes it an engaging conversation. And then when that teller says, how about the auto loan? Or how about the home loan? Or even better yet, I see you could use some financial help. Do you have a mortgage? Well, yeah, I do. It's that bank of something else. Well, that's great. Do you also know that we could maybe refinance it? Maybe you could use the additional funds. It creates that conversation, which turns into education. We are bringing on even more financial literacy to help members understand their situation. Everything from the 18-year-old or youngster or kid all the way past those golden years towards retirement where you can live life to the most. Understanding banking from a banker's perspective, we see it. But from a member's perspective, is to be able to help them. But we do it, we call it DoubleCheck 360 here. We help you from beginning to end.
All right, great. One final question, and I guess I'm kind of reiterating this. So credit unions, obviously they're concerned about losing, the fee income, which, some are kind of surviving off of at this point with low interest rates. Will the income that credit unions generate from DoubleCheck program be able to match what they typically were receiving from their NSF and overdraft programs?
It could, it absolutely could. It depends on how they want to monetize it. The DoubleCheck platform is completely configurable to the credit union's wants and needs. So if they want to be able to monetize it in a different way, it's up to them. We are at their desire. So whatever they choose to want to do, and we can walk them through that. The kind of really cool part about it as well is sometimes you can offset it. You just brought it up nicely. Sometimes if they want to sell new products or services like a Q cash loan, maybe they can get some income off of that platform. There's different ways that the credit union can be able to monetize the platform. They absolutely could. In fact, in ways that could actually see that we have one credit union who actually cut their overdraft fees and have remained revenue neutral because they're getting higher usage. And with the add-on of the DoubleCheck feature, they could actually increase the revenue in a member-centric capacity. And we've also found that the complaints have dropped off dramatically when they find out they're paying less in fees, but they're okay with the service charge. One thing to understand, and I want to encourage anyone who's listening, Jamie, and I think you and I get this a lot. We were talking about this. Don't try to think like your member. Don't try to know how your member feels. Let your member feel the way they want to feel and the way they think. Because at the end of the day, it's their financial health that we're all concerned about and the long-term relationship. I don't want to digress, but I was at a conference and I was speaking to tons of credit unions. And everyone wants the lifetime member. And one of the things that's happening in credit unions right now is the average age of the member has increased significantly. So they're almost aging out of their membership. I think it was 43. So how do you attract the members that are younger, and so you can still keep the vitality health of those members feeding into new members? The only way you're going to do that is if you give them the services and control that they want in their accounts. So DoubleCheck truly is not an option for a credit union that wants to be here for the long run. And if you want to be here for the short run. Now, I do want to also go back. I didn't answer one of your other questions. From a litigation perspective, we also help you. So right now, these class action lawsuits are hitting credit unions right and left. I know one of the largest credit unions in the country paid out $16 million because of one unhappy member. With our technology in place, we can either help eliminate or at the very least mitigate these class actions. Because what the judges are leaving in is that the credit union failed to act in good faith. Our technology says, here's your good faith. Here are all the actions, and we document and track all of that for these credit unions. So if you were to get sued, we have DoubleCheck. Here's everything we've done. We can show you when we texted, we emailed, we put the member in control of everything that's happening. So it's a huge benefit on that side, huge member service. It's like that hot fudge sundae that I used to have on my first day of school, from whipped cream to cherry, all the way down to the ice cream. It will be an incredible experience. And I know that people always say, what's the catch? The only catch is you have to say yes. Say yes, we want to help our members. Okay, I have to get off my high horse right now. So I appreciate everyone hearing that. I appreciate everyone. I love credit unions. So I'm excited to get all credit unions to have the platform.
Well, now that every credit union has said yes, why don't you share with me a little bit about the implementation process, though, the credit union would go through when they sign up for DoubleCheck?
The implementation process. So we have partnerships where we work with the core provider. Our goal here is as little, if no friction as possible. So we work with the core provider. So Jack Henry has been amazing. Jack Henry said, Shannon, who is the head of Jack Henry Scimitar, said, it's just the right thing to do. So they've agreed to implement all their credit unions at no cost. That's how advanced. So we've already done the integrations we do the integration of the core. If we don't have your core, we're probably working on it right now. So we do all that side of it. And don't worry about, for those listening, don't worry about your ACH files, all your heads. We've worked through all of that. And then we also have the partnership with the online banking provider. That's why we use the same credentials. And then it becomes that tab. So the implementation process from a technology side is low. And then we get people trained up, we get staff using the technology. It's not a difficult process to get them up and running. My co-CEO, Bill Emilio, is a Fortune 50 CEO. He joined DoubleCheck to make sure every institution in this country can have availability of this technology. So we're designed to scale. We're cloud-based, we're SOC 2, we have all of that. We'll get through your compliance very, very fast. So those people concerned, this is not a tedious process. It's a process we're all going to enjoy because we have one common interest, service the members, but implementation is not difficult. It takes time, just like anything else, but it's not a lot of time.
All right. Joel, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to be with me today and kind of talk about the DoubleCheck program. For those that are listening, if you want to learn more about DoubleCheck, I would encourage you to register for the Reimagining Your NSF Program webinar on March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. This is where Vizzo Financial's partners at DoubleCheck will walk you through the features, the functionalities, and more benefits of the program. You can register on the Vizzo Financial website at www.vfccu.org. Thank you, Joel, so much. Any final thoughts for our viewers?
No, just Vizzo. We love our partnership with Vizzo. We can't wait for all your credit unions clients to be able to have this. And I hope everyone stays safe out there and enjoys the week, the rest. Well, by the time they listen to this, the rest of the week ahead. So, but Jaime, I have to say, I've enjoyed it, getting to know you and talking through this. Appreciate the invite for the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone listening to us today. Have a great day.